Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. Lee Moldaver, also known as Flame Mother by the inhabitants of Vault 4 and Miss Williams before the Great War, is an R&D specialist, nuclear fusion scientist, and the primary antagonist of Season 1 in the Fallout TV series. She led remnant forces of the New California Republic at the Griffith Observatory in 2296. Moldaver abducts Lucy McLean's father, Hank, making it Lucy's mission to rescue her father from Moldaver's clutches. Before the Great War, Moldaver, then known as Miss Williams, was a nuclear scientist who had spent her life working towards cold fusion. She never finished her research, as the Vault-Tec Corporation ultimately acquired all the research companies she worked for. Vault-Tec acquired and buried the technology, as virtually infinite energy was incompatible with America's capitalist economic system, and especially Vault-Tec's profits, as cheap energy would remove the economic foundation for the ongoing Sino-American War. This brought her into contact with Barb Howard, a Vault-Tec executive involved with the acquisitions, and made Williams wealthy. However, with her research gone and buried to perpetuate the war, Williams began organizing against the corporations. She became the head of an intellectual circle at the Hollywood Forever Funeral Home, where she gave speeches and lectures warning against Vault-Tec's hegemony over the United States, and in particular the danger the ultra-rich posed to the common people. One frequent attendee was Hollywood actor Charles Whiteknife, who would subsequently bring fellow actor and co-star Cooper Howard to one of their sessions. Williams smiled upon meeting Howard, claiming she was a big fan of his movies. During her presentation, Howard, who was an Anchorage veteran like Whiteknife, but also a staunch anti-communist, did not like her take. He was initially repulsed by her rhetoric, especially when she pointed out that the average American had more in common with the average Chinese citizen, rather than the people in power in the US. Describing it as horseshit, he tried to walk out in the middle of the speech, which led to a confrontation between the two. Gently needling him about his behavior and apparent oversensitivity, she diffused his attempt and convinced him to stay and listen, when she revealed that she knew his wife and a side of her Cooper did not. She explained to him the history of cold fusion and Vault-Tec's attempts, while providing Cooper with a listening device so he could learn the truth himself. When he refused, she insisted he keep it as a souvenir, and noted that while she was called a communist, she was not. To her, communist was a dirty word that society used to badmouth people who weren't insane. Moldaver survived the Great War and the next 200 years through unknown means. It appears clear from the way she is depicted that she is not a ghoul, but very few other details are available. By 2277, she had become a citizen of the New California Republic who lived in Shady Sands. During this time, she met Rose McLean, a dweller of Vault 33, who had found out that civilization survived on the surface and left to live in Shady Sands with her children, Lucy and Norm. It is implied the two may have developed deeper relationship, forming a new life on the surface. This changed when she met Hank, Rose's husband, and Vault 33's overseer, who pursued her. Hank tried but failed to convince Rose to return to the Vault, for reasons Moldaver would later discover. Hank was an employee of Vault-Tec, whose directive was to destroy any and all vestige of civilization on the surface, so that the Vault-Tec-aligned populace of his Vault, and Vaults 31 and 32, would establish a monopoly over the wasteland. Unable to convince Rose, he took their kids back to the Vault, and then, according to Moldaver, the Vault-Tec executive detonated a nuclear bomb that destroyed Shady Sands, leaving only a crater in its wake, sometime after the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. In the aftermath of Shady Sands' destruction, Moldaver became a leading figure among NCR survivors in the LA region, likely due to her role in the evacuation. The refugees who were accepted into Vault 4 struggled with the trauma and started performing religious rituals, symbolically bringing Shady Sands back. Moldaver became the Flame Mother, who would bring about salvation. Moldaver rallied other NCR units and established a stronghold at Griffith Observatory, while looking for a way to recover cold fusion. Over the years, she became a well-known force in the region, known to everyone. She earned a reputation for being extremely dangerous as the moniker started to spread. Some even described her as a mad woman in the hills. The work towards recovering her life's work bore fruit in 2296. Moldaver made contact with Sigi Wilzig, an enclave scientist willing to risk his life and recover the technology from the organization. As the triennial trade between Vault 32 and Vault 33 neared, Wilzig prepared to smuggle out the fusion catalyst. At the same time, Moldaver set up a raid in order to abduct its overseer. Due to Vault-Tec making the technology proprietary, she needed an executive's code to unlock it. Moldaver's group entered Vault 32 using Rose McLean's Pip-Boy, posing as the Vault's new overseer and dwellers. The original population was wiped out in a civil war when the dwellers discovered the truth about the Vault's experiment. Moldava contacted Hank McLean via a terminal telegram and told him the overseer Ian Jackson had died and she was taking his place. She used a cover story that a Vault famine killed many of the Vault's inhabitants in order to erase suspicion as to why their visiting group was different. The ruse worked, and Moldaver attended Lucy's marriage with Monty. She soon ordered the attack as the trade celebrations wound down and the Vault's inhabitants retired for the night. Despite taking significant losses, with several raiders dead and 16 captured, Moldaver succeeded. She confronted Hank McLean at the intra-Vault passage and forced him to surrender, offering him a choice between his dwellers' lives and his daughter. With his guard dropped, Lee had the raiders tranquilize him and withdrew, blowing up the passageway into Vault 32. However, Wilzig's defection ran into problems after an Enclave administrator discovered his attempt. Wilzig was forced to flee the Enclave research colony before schedule, after which the Enclave issued a high-paid bounty on him, while the Brotherhood of Steel intercepted the intel and organized search and recovery operation of their own. Moldaver already arranged for an extraction from Philly and paid for his safe transport, with one of her own soldiers acting as an intermediary. However, the sudden escape attracted attention. Everyone knew he was running to Moldaver, including bounty hunters, allowing the ghoul to deduce where Wilzig was likely to try and go to the ground. He intercepted the defector in Philly, wounding him severely. Sidetracked by Maximus, Wilzig got away with Lucy McLean's help, who was trying to track Moldaver down after the attack on Vault 33. Well aware of what Moldaver was planning, Wilzig committed suicide and had Lucy saw his head off to deliver it to Moldaver. Eventually, Lucy managed to arrive at the observatory with Wilzig's head to trade it for her father. Instead, Moldaver revealed the truth about Hank to Lucy, including his involvement in destroying Shady Sands. The crushing revelation and the realization that her father left her mother for dead, once she spotted her mother's locket on the feral ghoul tied to the chair at Moldaver's table, resulted in her demanding the code from her father. Hank complied. The catalyst placed inside the cold fusion plant set up by Moldaver at the observatory worked and began charging. However, as the device charged up, the Brotherhood came into range of the observatory's sentries. Taking command of the troops, Moldaver left to lead the defense, personally taking control of the anti-aircraft turret once the gunner was killed in action. In the subsequent battle, the NCR and the Brotherhood both suffered losses, but the remnants were eventually destroyed. While the Brotherhood managed to break through NCR lines and fight its way inside the observatory, they were ambushed by the ghoul. Moldaver was shot in the gut, but managed to return to the control room just moments after Hank escaped due to Maximus's actions, while the ghoul and Lucy took off in pursuit after Lucy put her ghoulified mother out of her misery. As Maximus came to, she activated the cold fusion reactor, powering up the entire Los Angeles area. As it lit up, she sat next to Rose, holding her hand and whispering that they finally managed to fulfill their dream. Before dying, Moldaver warned Maximus about the consequences of giving the Brotherhood unlimited power, suggesting in her usual roundabout way that he try to stop them. Brotherhood reinforcements led by Dane entered the control room moments later and found Maximus standing beside Moldaver's body. Looking at Moldaver and Maximus, Dane assumed Maximus killed her, although he denied this quietly. Before Maximus could deny this to the rest of the group, Dane took the opportunity to credit Maximus with taking down the NCR leader, ensuring that he would be knighted for the feat. Instead of remaining in safety, Moldava fights alongside her NCR soldiers on the battlefield. Willing to sacrifice anything for her band of people, Moldava is a woman driven by the greater good. Despite Vault-Tec's acquisitions giving her immense wealth, she refused to accept them and continued to look for a way to retake cold fusion from the corporation and end the resource wars. As a talented speaker and an excellent judge of character, she managed to convince even Cooper Howard, who initially marked her as a communist, to look into his wife's corporate career. However, the gambit did not seem to pay off, as the Great War occurred and cold fusion remained out of her reach. Over 200 years later, having survived the war through means not yet revealed, Moldava joined the new California Republic and formed close ties with Rose McLean, a defector from Vault 33. The wasteland life aged and hardened her, as did the subsequent destruction of Shady Sands. When the opportunity presented itself to retake cold fusion from the Enclave, she had no compunctions about raiding Vault 33 or the resulting loss of life within the bunker. Her contempt for Vault-Tec and the Dwellers kept as cattle likely played a role. However, she also inspired loyalty, rallying people to her cause and fighting on the front lines with them, which ultimately cost Moldava her own life. However, Moldava ultimately achieved her 230-year-long goal of introducing clean, unlimited energy to the world. A technology that undoubtedly would have changed the outcome of the resource wars had it been allowed to be introduced. This action saw lights reignite across all of post-war Los Angeles, with the cold fusion generator feeding unlimited power to the Boneyard and Shady Sands ruins. However, due to the complete eradication of Moldava's NCR forces, this technology now appears to be in the control of the Brotherhood of Steel.